This is ESBR Boxing, and we're back with a quick review video of what we've just witnessed there. Danny, obviously, Naoya Inoue and Paul Butler fought for all four belts in the bantamweight division, and it resulted in a Naoya Inoue 11th round stoppage victory. So he is now the undisputed bantamweight champion. He holds every belt at 118 pounds, and yeah, we've both just watched the fight there. Firstly, I just want to say I think I was a bit annoyed that imagine you have a Brit in an undisputed fight and not one UK broadcaster picked it up. You have to find a stream of some sort or whatever, but we managed to get sorted. So yeah, Danny, first of all, thanks for joining me, mate. And I just wanted to ask, how did you think the fight went for Inoue? Did Inoue underperform? Did Butler do better than you thought he would do? How did you see it?
First of all, it's a good point you make there, and so I hope that washing machine's not too bad in the background. It's a good point you make on like no UK broadcaster picked it up. I think the same thing happened for Josh Taylor Ramirez back a couple of years ago. I think that ended up being in like Fight TV or some equivalent to it. So I think it just shows where their loyalties lie. If it's not like a big money draw, then they're not interested. But with regards to your question, this might be slightly controversial. I think Inoue maybe slightly underperformed. I know Tim Bradley in particular was very critical of Butler, saying he didn't come to win and all this here. But I think that's realistically, I know me and you both, Jan, that's sort of the game plan we expected from Butler. You know what I mean? Like, what do people expect him to do? Like, go in there and trade with Inoue? Like, Butler's not a puncher. Inoue's pound for pound top 2-3 punchers in the sport. Like, he would have got flattened. I think people, regardless of Butler's game plan, expected him to get blew out in a couple of rounds. So I don't think you can lay too much blame at his door. Yes, you'd say in an ideal world you come to win, but if you go in there and feel Inoue's power, I'm sure he maybe thought at some point, I could catch him or maybe stick it on in the last couple of rounds. But if you feel Inoue's power, you're not going to sit there and trade with him. So I think the likes of, I know we'll come on to who Inoue might fight next, but there'll be fighters watching that in weight class as well, thinking, you know what, I can beat this fella. He's obviously a terrific fighter, but there are, you hesitate to say weaknesses, but some points of his game that aren't as strong as others maybe. So I mean, I hate to see that bit here too critical. He's obviously, it feels like he was undisputed champion before this in a way. It's strange that this was him to fight getting it. So obviously it's a great accolade and there's congratulations from that. But yeah, not his best performance, probably the best way to sum it up.
Yeah, you know what? I completely agree with you. I don't think you're speaking out of turn saying that he perhaps underperformed, and that's down to Paul Butler at the end of the day. Let's be honest.
100%.
Yes, we talked before. It's clear to see there that the game plan. Did Butler ever think he was probably going to win? Probably not. But he surprised a lot of people. We were saying before, we have in our picks league, everyone predicted an Inoue knockout within 6 rounds. Most people said 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I thought it would maybe go into the middle rounds. So, but even I was wrong with that. I don't think a lot of people thought Butler would have lasted that long. But yeah, he was kind of in sparring partner mode. I agree with that. But as you said there, Danny, you hit the nail on the head. What does Timothy Bradley expect him to do? Go in and trade and throw fire with fire? Absolutely not. That's a death warrant. That is doing that with Inoue. I don't care who you are. If you go in and just say, stuff this, I'm going to try and take him out, you're going to get stopped. It's just an absolutely ludicrous game plan. So I completely disagree with what Timothy Bradley was saying. And fair play to Paul Butler. Fair play to him. He did a lot better than most people thought. So yeah, hats off to him. Although he didn't probably bring a game plan that was ever going to be good enough to win the fight. Yeah, fair play to him. I think that he's surprised a lot of people. So yeah, fair play.
Yeah, definitely. And his defense was really good, you know what I mean? And it would have been very easy for him in those first couple of rounds, first 3 rounds, on the occasions, and he did manage to cut him off and get him backed up in the corner to like just wilt and say, all right, knew this was coming here as I've got my payday, but he kept a tight card, blocked a lot of the punches, even up like to head and body. So I know like when the stoppage eventually came, it looked as if he just sort of said, they shook his head and said enough was enough here, but like in the 10th round, you're down every round. You're not a puncher. Inoue's clearly carrying his power. Like, there's literally no way he's winning the fight from that point. Like, me and you have as much chance at that stage as winning a fight in there. So why stay in and like get up and you know what I mean. So no, he deserves massive credit, and he'll definitely come back to the UK with his stock a bit higher. I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we were saying it was a straight right to the body or a right hook to the body. That kind of was the beginning of the end. And it looked like that was probably going to be the breakthrough the whole fight. You know, Butler, as you alluded to there, has had a brilliant defense the whole time, really tight guard. Any punches that Inoue was throwing, and you hear the crowd going mental when he was throwing these big right hands, but they were all landing right in the gloves. So yeah, fair play to Paul Butler. I think it's probably one of those undisputed fights that won't live long in the memory. It's not one of the best undisputed fights we've ever seen in history, but at the end of the day, fair play to Inoue. He's got all four belts now. Nobody can disagree with that. So, the next question for you, Danny, is what's next? I suppose does if you're Inoue's manager or if you're Inoue, does he stick around at 118? Is there any point if he's already got all four belts and beat everybody? Does he move up to 122 pounds at super bantamweight? Do you throw him in with the champion straight away there? Do you throw him in with, there's a few other Japanese fighters at super bantam? Do you throw him in with the top 10 fighters just to kind of see, does he carry the power up? What are your thoughts on what Inoue does next?
I always got to be moving up. I think that was sort of a given before this fight. I wouldn't be throwing him straight in with the champion. Very rarely do you see that in boxing. Normally, fighters will come up and have one, if not two fights to sort of find their feet at a new weight. I know it's slightly different in the lower weight classes because the jumps aren't as big. And the stream I was watching, at the risk of the fucking police kicking my door down here, the stream I was watching, there was like an army of John Riel Casemiro fans like slandering the Inoue the entire time. And I think he's moving up to super bantam now because obviously he had to vacate that title that the Butler ended up winning. And I think that was a fight that's been talked about for quite a while, and Casemiro is a puncher himself. I think that would be a great fight for Inoue moving up, and it's against someone who's like he won't have maybe as big a size disadvantage as opposed to against one of the champions like a Stephen Fulton or something who'll be a lot bigger than in there. Obviously, Casemiro is a fighter who's fought at lower weights himself. I think that'd be a great fight, to be a massive fight over in Asia as well. Obviously, Casemiro's from, I think, the Philippines. That just sort of came into my head, just seeing all these like messages of abuse towards Inoue from all these like Filipino fellas in the chats. I think that'd be a good one. A really big name in the lower weights, Casemiro as well, so it would sell well. Would keep the sort of hype that Inouye's got. Like obviously massive in Japan, but sort of even like outside of Japan in the UK, like Casemiro is quite known in the UK as well. So I think that would be a decent first fight, and then obviously you want to see him take on one of the two champions after that, don't you?
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think I throw him in with Fulton, obviously, who has the WBC and the WBO belt, and Akhmadaliev, who has the IBF and WBA. I could see hopefully those two fight for undisputed next year. So then, by the time Inoue has had two fights, for example, at Super Bantam, then he's straight away fighting maybe back end of the year or whatever for all the belts, whether that be Fulton, Akhmadaliev, or someone else. But yeah, I think that Casemiro one makes sense. Obviously, he's one of the only bantamweights that he hasn't fought, and obviously
Yeah.
he looks like he's moving up now as well. So yeah, I see it. It does make sense. Casemiro is a big puncher in his own right, getting on a little bit now, but yeah, I think that's a decent shout for maybe his first fight at Super Bantam. Obviously, you've got a whole host of Japanese fighters. I'm not going to go through and butcher their names, but there's a good few. If you look at the rankings and even on BoxRec, inside the top 10, 15, there's three or four other Japanese fighters. You can make a massive,
Yeah.
oh, Inouye's moved up and he's fighting fellow Japanese fighter, big show in Japan. Obviously you've got Takuma Inouye's ranked number 7 in BoxRec. They're not going to fight, but it just shows, the depth outside of maybe the top 5 at Super Bantam isn't
Yeah.
as great. But there's someone like Lewis Neary doesn't hold the belt. If he sticks
Yeah.
around at Super Bantam, that's a decent fight. Ronnie Rios, would he want to take that fight? Not too sure. And just a few other names. You got Marlon Tapales, I think you pronounce his name, and Raisi Alim. There's a couple of names you could throw him in with. I wouldn't be against if I was in I wouldn't be against what you've mentioned there. Maybe go up Casemiro first, because he's going up as well. Perhaps fight a Neary for a final eliminator for whatever belt it is. And then yeah, bang, fight Fulton or Akhmadaliev if they still have the belts, one of those, and then yeah, then you're well on your way to becoming undisputed at super bantamweight as well.
Yeah, and I would agree with what you said as well about not throw him in straight away with particularly Stephen Fulton. If I'm Stephen Fulton, the style he has, I'd be licking my lips a wee bit after that fight with Butler. Like I know we all love Inoue, and it almost feels like there's these like fighters in boxing that it's almost like sacrilegious to criticize. But Stephen Fulton's got great footwork. He's got more power than Paul Butler. He's a lot bigger than Paul Butler. He's a lot better all round boxer than Paul Butler. And he would go into a potential Inoue fight off the back of that thinking I've got the style to beat this fella 100%. Like you forget that Inoue started out at light flyweight. He's already up fucking what's that 3 weight classes going into a fourth one. You know what I mean? And like he wasn't undersized at bantamweight. No, Butler was slightly bigger than him, but eventually, size can tell you can't move up to fucking welterweight and start beating people. You know what I mean? So, and I don't know, it's early days, and I know you shouldn't like have a massive knee-jerk reaction to one somewhat flat performance, but that's a proper fight Inoue and Fulton stylistically. The Akhmadaliev one, I think I would maybe favour Inoue slightly more. Akhmadaliev not as elusive as Fulton is, a bit more, I don't want to say wild, but relies a bit more on like the likes of athleticism and stuff, and he would be a similar closer to Inouye's size. But I would definitely maybe have one, as you say, to sort of find your feet up at Super Bantam, and then it's going to have to be big ones after that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If you're on this sort of like legacy chasing path that he seems to be on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, don't want to stay on here for too long, but I know we could talk about this all day. But just finally, Danny, let's say you've said there the Fulton fight. Let's say Fulton beats Akhmadaliev maybe and gets all the belts. This time next year, where we come back and we review a fight. In December 2023, Stephen Fulton and Naoya Inoue have just fought for all the belts at super bantamweight. Who's won?
I mean, it's for starting, it's wishful thinking. I don't think Fulton Akhmadaliev is going to happen anytime soon with the whole fucking PBC DAZN thing, unfortunately. Oh God, I don't want to say something that's going to get our army of loyal Japanese followers on my back. I would probably edge Fulton. I would edge for there. I'll say it. I'd edge Fulton. I'm ready for the abuse.
Well, I think you know what, I completely agree with all the points you made there, and Fulton would definitely be the hardest fight for Inoue in his career so far. But I still, if he carries the power up and I know we look at it, it's like it's only 4 pounds, but when you're only just over 100 pounds,
That's the thing.
four
It's all
pounds is
relative,
actually
isn't
quite
it?
a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all
it
relative,
is all, as you
definitely.
say, it's all relative. And if started at light fly, there he's been at light fly. Did he skip super fly or something, or he skipped
No,
maybe one of them?
it was. I was looking there. It was at Superfly, but he never fought like an Estrada or a Rungvisai or a Gonzalez or anything. He did obviously win a world title there, but because I sort of wondered that as well, because like imagine you saw Inoue Estrada or anything like, but
Yeah.
no, I seem to miss out them fellas.
Well, I think that maybe he's definitely is going to move up. But imagine he surprised us all, move back down to Superfly,
Oh
and
man, that'd be unbelievable. That'd be
that'd be
class.
class. That would be.
Uh,
Geez, I just thought about that now. I prefer him to do that.
100%, 100%. Him against Estrada, Bam Rodriguez, Chocolate
Oh,
Chocolate would be class, but I think unfortunately it seems to be going the other way.
yeah, thanks. Right, well, listen, Danny. Thanks very much for jumping on at short notice just after the fight there. Although perhaps not the best performance of Inouye's career, it was another knockout win at the end of the day. Super bantamweight probably the next stop, the stop for the monster. So yeah, thanks once again, Danny, and have a good one, mate.